University. Okay, great. Hi, everyone. My name is Mariana Stark, class of 1989 at University and Director of Alumni Engagement and Giving. I've been in my position exactly 1 year, so this is a fun anniversary activity. Thank you all for participating. We are always looking for new ways to reach people and provide relevant programming. So if you have any ideas or suggestions, please contact me at uhsalumni@sfuhs.org. We are recording this session and we'll post it online later and send it out to everyone who signed up as well as the entire community. Just a brief word on logistics before I turn it over to Erin. We're going to keep everyone on mute. And if you have a question and you're participating via video conference, please text your question. And if it makes sense for Erin to answer it in the moment, he will. But if he thinks that a later slide might answer your question, he might ask you to hang on. And then his presentation is about 20 minutes, so there will be plenty of time for questions afterwards. And then I do want to put a plug in, since this is a LinkedIn session, to invite everybody to add University High School to their LinkedIn profile, the education section. Some of you have done that, but we've updated the settings so that now if the logo isn't showing, all you have to do is delete it and add it back. You don't need to include your graduation year if that's your choice. But if you delete it and add it back, then you'll see the logo and you will officially be searchable as an alum. So with that, I will turn it over to Erin.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, very nice to see you all virtually here online today. I'm Aaron Fung, class of 2000. I'm a talent brand strategist and solutions consultant here at LinkedIn. Been with the company for about 9 months now, and I'm really excited to be able to share some of this content with you all here today. Just so you all know, we do these sessions fairly frequently for our clients and for our customers. So we spend a lot of time helping people to figure out, how can we rock your profile, how can you use the platform, and really give people a nice understanding of what LinkedIn is. I think a lot of people think of LinkedIn as a jobs platform or a social media website, and certainly is true, but there are other components to LinkedIn that maybe you weren't aware of, and hopefully I can illuminate some of the features and benefits here today. So brief background on me. In terms of work, I spent the last few years doing consulting, mostly in the arena of talent strategy and recruiting operations. Prior to that, I spent 7 years working in banking, quickly realized that I needed a change of direction. I studied human and organizational performance at Vanderbilt, and ultimately, led me to LinkedIn to do this kind of work that I'm doing now. And beyond sort of the work stuff, I have a travel blog, which is my passion. So if any of you are looking for travel advice, please go to my blog at aaronfung.me. But really what I do on a day-to-day basis here at LinkedIn is I help companies develop their talent brand strategy. So what do people think of when they're thinking about your company? And it goes beyond just being aware of your organization. It goes to what kind of reputation do you have? What kind of culture are you trying to create? And what keeps people in your company and in their jobs on a day-to-day basis? So a lot of what I talk about is, again, how do you stand out? How do you make sure that people pay attention to you and know you for the right things, not for the wrong things? So what I'm going to do is set a little bit of context on LinkedIn. I think you'll find that some of these are a little bit stock slides, but it'll kind of give you a sense of what exactly the company does and what the platform is. And then we'll spend some time talking through specifics around your profile and some of the components that go into it. As we mentioned earlier, please, if you have questions or if you have thoughts that are on that particular topic and you want to ask a question, please do so via the chat on BlueJeans. It makes it easier for us to corral them and order them, as well as not having 17 voices all talking over each other. And then if I don't get your question in the slide itself, at the very end, we'll make sure we try to address as many of them as possible. So LinkedIn's vision is really quite simple. It's to create economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. Now, what is economic opportunity? Obviously, it can be defined in a lot of different ways. It could be getting a new job. It could be getting a better job. It could be about learning or some step on the path to get you towards a better professional outcome. And the way that we're going to get there is through our mission. Probably most of you have heard this statement, we want to connect the world professionals and make them more productive and successful. And again, it's a very broad, all-encompassing statement. We know that. but we leave people with a lot of flexibility in terms of how they go about becoming more productive and becoming more successful. So I think most of you might know that LinkedIn has jobs. There are pages that companies will sponsor and host content on there, but many of you may not be aware that LinkedIn has multiple businesses. So for example, we have our talent solutions business, which is where I sit. We have sales, marketing, and learning solutions, all geared towards very different aspects of running and growing organizations. So when you think about what LinkedIn is and does, think about our value proposition, right? We mentioned connecting to opportunity. We always think about our members and our customers, and members first is one of our core values. So for our members, we think about how do you advance your career? Maybe that's going back to school. Maybe it's taking an informal course through a website like LinkedIn Learning, or through Udemy, or through other sites. Maybe it's connecting with other people who give you insights on the companies you're looking at. For our corporate customers, it really is about working smarter. So we work with a lot of companies and their recruiting teams to figure out how can you reduce the time to hire or time to fill open jobs. How can you reduce the costs related to onboarding or bringing people into your pipeline? So we are very much cognizant on sort of these two big groups, because that really does compose what our platform is. Some of these numbers are a little bit outdated, and I apologize for not updating them. I don't have the exact numbers. As of last year, we're about 480 million users. I know that in early December, the number I heard was around 530 million. So our platform is growing rather quickly. And beyond just sort of the white-collar professionals I think we were known for early on, we have a very large growing number of students on the platform. And one interesting thing is that monthly unique visitors is something we track because over the last 12, 18 months, we've kind of evolved into a publishing platform. So our combined viewership actually outpaces that of several major publications, including Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Washington Post. So again, it's not just a jobs website, but really it's about sharing information and knowledge. Okay, so now that my LinkedIn commercial is done, what I'd like to do is spend the majority of our time talking about what is a great profile and what does a great profile look like. Mariana, if anyone pings on the chat, can you just stop me?
I will.
Sweet.
Yes.
Okay. So
yes.
I'm going to take you through a few components to your profile. And some of this might seem like common sense, but what we're actually backing this up with is data around user activity on our platform. The first thing we tell people is add a profile photo. And I think most of you may already have a profile photo set up on your page. But the reason why we say to do this is that when you have a real photo on your profile, you're more likely to get connection requests on the order of 9 times. You can have 21 times more profile views and over 36 times more messages. What it does is it creates a human element. And if you think back to in the past when you've gotten a connection request from someone you didn't know, if they didn't have a profile photo, were you likely to accept the request? Maybe. But more likely not. And that's something that we can back up with data on our platform. If you also think about all the pieces of information that go into your profile, some of you might be thinking, well, why do I need to list my location or my industry or my education? And the reason why is because if you think about what LinkedIn is, does, and has, it really is a repository for your professional life. So when people are trying to find you, or seek out people with certain expertises or backgrounds, they need to figure out how you're aligned. So an industry, for example, let's say, Mariana in higher education, or Brian in financial services, or John in the creative arts, right? You might want to set your industry the right way so that when you are the object of search, when someone is trying to find someone like you, they're going to find you categorized the right way. You can see here more than 300,000 people search by industry on LinkedIn every week. And for any of you who may be considering a career change, if you're looking for people who fall into a certain industry because that's your particular focus, you want to make sure that your industry matches what you want to be known for. And I think the same can be said for all the major data fields on your profile. But again, this is a really important way to classify who you are, what you do, and how you want to be aligned. Right below your name, titles, and location is your summary. And I cannot tell you how important a compelling summary is in creating a strong LinkedIn profile. So most of you will probably include something about where you're from, what you do, where you've worked more recently, what specializations you might have. The key here is you want to focus on your career accomplishments and especially any aspirations you may have. So for example, if you spent the last 10 years working in internal audit and you're looking to make a career change into financial planning and analysis, you might want to highlight the fact that you have certain skill sets that will make it easier for someone to look at your summary and say, I can make that connection point. I was listening to a webinar from my business school recently, and our director of admissions was talking about how some people will apply to business school, for example, with 10 years of engineering experience and say, I want to become an investment banker. But the connection point is not there. That's what this summary can do for you. If you're trying to make a switch that goes out of industry, out of function, out of company, you have to illuminate the connection points to make it easy for a recruiter or a hiring manager or for anyone else to say, oh, I can see why you're going from corporate development to sales management, or why you're going from engineering to investment banking. So make sure it's tight. I mean, we recommend 40 plus words, but again, you don't want to have an entire novel on here. If you can give a very tight description of who you are, what you do well, and what you aspire to, I think you'll be in a very good place. So work experience, I think, is a very interesting component to the profile, because oftentimes people will say, oh, my experience for these certain years was not relevant, so I just choose to leave it blank. Well, if a recruiter is looking at your profile and they don't know you personally, they can't create that story for you. So they're just going to assume you weren't working or you don't want to share that experience. If you have a gap, that's okay. One of the women who I coach on the side, recently asked me, well, how do I count for this, 6-7 year period? I said, well, if you weren't working, you can still highlight what you were doing. Talk about volunteer activities. Talk about the fact that you were a stay-at-home mother of 3. That's not an insignificant factor. But don't leave, people to assume what you were doing or were not doing. When you have up-to-date positions, obviously you can see some of these stats here. Again, 5 times more connection requests, 8 times more profile views, 10 times more messages. You're making yourself available to be found, and you're making it easier for someone to ascertain who are you again, and maybe what have you done well. Have I seen a progression of development within your organization? If you haven't, that's totally okay. I do know that we have a couple of students on this session. I have to give a shout out to, let's see, who is this? Sergio, who I think is a sophomore in college, so good for you. That's okay if you don't have the progression that you're looking for. People still need to figure out where you're starting and where you're trying to get to. When you break it down into the specific elements of the work experience, also include examples of your work. So for example, if you've been interviewed for a publication, if you have an article, if you have some kind of press release, photos, presentations, if you can share any of that, give people the opportunity to click into it. Some recruiters may cast a very wide net, but if you really are on a short list and someone is trying to do their due diligence on you before they invite you to interview, they want to be able to figure out what have you done? What are you known for publicly? Have you spoken at conferences? Have you given a TED Talk? Have you done programs or built up events? You can say any of these things, yes to any of these things. Why don't you share that? Now, this is probably, I think, the single most neglected piece of a profile. So it's pretty easy and straightforward to put in where you worked, where you went to school, your current location. But skills and endorsements is really a way for you to align yourself to specific abilities that certain companies and jobs are looking for, and also to use the power of your network to demonstrate your credibility. So this is Jill Jones's profile. She's a senior manager here in internal comms here at LinkedIn. And her most highly endorsed skill is internal communications, corporate communications, and strategic communications. No surprise. But I bet if I were to click into who endorsed her for those skills, you'd find a lot of people at very senior levels. particularly since she's the one who coordinates our all-hands meetings for Jeff Weiner, our CEO. So think about your skills. They can be soft or technical. So if you're an engineer and you want to talk about C++ or HTML5 or Java, or you want to talk about managing up or public speaking or management consulting, you can input a huge variety of skills here. And if you look at any job on LinkedIn now, more than likely there's going to be certain skills that have been attached to it. So it might actually already rate you with our algorithm and say, hey, you have 6 of the 10 skills they're looking for. But the other 4, if you actually have them, you should add them. If you don't have them, then it should be a question of, well, what do I need to do to get that skill? So for example, if I'm going for a communications role and I need content development experience, how do I get that? That's a much bigger question than we can answer obviously in this session, but hopefully it starts you thinking about who do I talk to for more information and where do I go for more information? Just as a hint, you can always check out LinkedIn Learning or check out Udemy. I think those are 2 great sites for learning more about topics like that. But we've done the research. And so when you have more than 5 skills, you're 27 times more likely to be found by a recruiter. It's just because they're looking for certain skills to align to certain jobs that are active and posted. So again, what you share is what's going to be found within the system. Okay, so what else? I think I mentioned a couple of these a little bit earlier, but your location, your education are both very important because, again, when you're trying to build up your network and maintain this network, you have to make sure that the information is accurate. So if you moved from San Francisco to New York last fall, but you haven't updated your LinkedIn profile, you might still get LinkedIn message requests from recruiters saying, hey, are you open to a job in San Francisco? That doesn't really help anybody. In fact, it's a big waste of everyone's time. So just make sure that if you have any move, career, geographic, company, industry, just update your profile and make sure that people can find you the right way. Education is also an important piece, and Mariana alluded to this, right? If you just type in SFUHS into your education, you can leave it that way. But the key is to find the pages that actually represent the schools that you went to. So for example, if you just type in University High School, you actually won't be aligned to all of the alums who went to our University High School. There are also multiple University High Schools. I know there's one in Irvine, I think there's one in Chicago. So if you type in San Francisco University High School and you click on it and you see our little icon, you know that's our school. Similarly, for people who go to like business school, for example, a lot of my classmates used to type in Vanderbilt University, but that's the big Vanderbilt University. They didn't type in the Owen Graduate School of Management. So again, being able to figure out where people are actually connected to properly is a really important thing. So it behooves you to just make sure your education is up to date. And again, you don't have to include your year of graduation or your focus of study, but again, if you can connect the relevant information to someone who's trying to find you, you make their jobs easier. So if you went to school for chemical engineering and you're looking for a job at ExxonMobil in Houston, I would probably indicate that you majored in chemical engineering. Common sense. The last 2 elements here are volunteer experiences, causes, and then accomplishments. I think also can't be understated because if you volunteer in the community, share that. All you're doing is creating another opportunity for someone to create a common contact. For example, I volunteer for an organization called Upwardly Global, which does programs to help immigrants assimilate into American business culture. People who are professionals in Iraq, Afghanistan, Sub-Saharan Africa, Southeast Asia, whose skills, are there, but they can't transfer their medical licenses or their legal degrees. That's how I volunteer. So when I find people who have a common interest and also volunteer for Upwardly Global, it's a really strong thing for me because I love the organization. If you volunteer at UHS, if you volunteer for Habitat for Humanity, just share that because, again, it just creates more opportunities for you to find something in common with people. The last piece on accomplishments actually is much more, I think, pragmatic just for the day-to-day LinkedIn activity. If you speak a foreign language, if you're part of an organization, if you have a certification, list that because, again, recruiters are always searching for these combinations of abilities and characteristics. If you speak fluent Spanish or Farsi or Mandarin, you're probably going to be in demand. If you have a certain certification related to HR or actuarial science, again, it's going to make you very much a compelling candidate professional, individual, however you want to be considered at this point in time. Okay, so that's really the meat on your profile. What I want to do is spend a little bit of time talking through some of the elements on content, because again, LinkedIn is not just a website with profiles. There is a lot of content and a lot of content going in various directions. So, for example, virtually any company you're looking for will have a LinkedIn page. Sometimes it's just a company page, sometimes it's a career page, depending on what they're trying to do with it. But there's always a way for you to learn more about the organization. So if you go to the LinkedIn page, you'll see our overview tab about the company. You can click on jobs to learn more about specific jobs that we have open right now. And if you want a little glimpse into our culture, you click on the Life tab. And as you scroll down this page, you'll learn more about the things that we post that are related to our organization or our thought leadership or the things that we're working on as a business. Some of you might use LinkedIn to follow influencers, and if you don't, I highly recommend that you do. Obviously, Bill Gates is a pretty well-known luminary, but there are a lot of different professionals who maintain an active presence on LinkedIn. So, for example, Angela Ahrendts at Apple, Jamie Dimon at JP Morgan are just two examples of people who maintain active presence. They post often, they share content, they share their thoughts. And it's a great way for you to keep informed with people who are majorly impactful within your industry or your field of thought. So when you think about, again, what publishing and content means to you, you actually have two tools at your disposal. One is updates and the other is publishing. The updates, I think all of you are familiar with. It's kind of like Facebook. You can post an update saying, hey, I read this great article on onboarding. I read this great HB article about managing up. I really I found this great infographic that talks about the power of nonverbal communication. So it's a quick, short way to get content out to anyone in your network or anyone in your network's network. You can tag your friends, say, hey, at Mariana, I thought this article would be great for you and anyone in the higher ed world. Post. Well, anyone who is in Mariana's network might say, oh, that's great. I do admissions at Lip Wilmerding, or I do, college counseling at Urban. Publishing is actually meant to be a little bit more of a deeper dive into content that you want to share with audiences. So, for example, a lot of my posts tend to be about organizational behavior, talent management, the elements that relate to the people elements of a company, right? If you get someone who is a venture capitalist or a private equity partner, they may talk about business models and transformation and trends. If you want to create a brand for yourself, publishing is a really good way to do that, because you can share your thoughts around any topic, and you can make sure that people begin to understand that you are a thought leader in whatever you're focused on. Maybe it's healthcare policy, maybe it's pharmaceutical research, maybe it's managing people within nonprofits. So don't let these tools sit unutilized. I think as you begin to share content with people, people will thank you for it, assuming it's not just rants or completely tangential. But you'll also, again, begin to build your credibility in the eyes of people who are following you or have found you through our network. Mariana, any questions in the chat as of now?
Nothing so far.
So, this is just, again, some visual treatment to what it looks like if you haven't done it before. If you want to share a status update, very simple. When you sign into LinkedIn, at the very top of your page, you'll have your little profile icon. You can type, at, and then type in any person's name in your network to tag them. And again, just, share what content you feel is relevant. And, if you've got questions about what content is relevant and you want to pick my brain afterwards, happy to speak with anyone who has questions. One thing I'll mention is that links and images are really important. So when you share content offsite and you have an image, make sure you include it, because it really does make it much more compelling for someone to say, oh, I can see a picture of Jeff Weiner, our CEO. That sounds interesting. I hear he's a good speaker. I'm going to click on that. Just think about it's a little bit like advertising in a sense. You want to make sure you grab someone's attention if that it is truly your goal. So as I mentioned, publishing is really important for I think three compelling reasons. One, part of your profile. So it sticks with you. So when someone wants to go back and see, what kinds of articles you've written, they can see, oh, well, Aaron's been doing this for the last 3 years. So it's not just I did an article just to get someone's attention. It gets shared with your network, which means if people find it valuable or helpful, they can share it with their networks. And this is how virality becomes an issue, especially if you're trying to, create something noteworthy or get someone's attention. And the last piece I think goes without saying, you're reaching, the largest group of professionals in any one single place online. It's like I said, about 530 million members. So, if you're looking to get your information out there, this is definitely a great platform to do so. I think I see a question from Ryan. What are my recommendations for using the paid premium versions as a non-recruiter individual? So, great question. I think that the levels of premium depend on what you're looking for. So, for example, if you're not looking for a job and you're not actively using the platform to communicate with people who are not in your network, then you don't really need a premium version. The features that come with the premium version are really helpful, though, I think, for any person, including someone who's comfortable and satisfied, because, again, it gives you the opportunity to expand your network, reach out to people, do searches. It gives you access to almost like an update Rolodex, which that's probably the greatest value I use LinkedIn for. The other versions, as you step up, tend to be for people who are, in very strong search mode or have other specific needs. So I think that, if you're looking for a job, it helps to have premium because, again, it allows you that outreach and, using in-mails, which is, our LinkedIn messages to contact people who are not in your network. It allows people to, again, save searches, develop, a more robust ability to see who's in or who's out of their network. So again, Ryan, it depends on your situation. Hope that helps. Okay, so another question. I turned off skills because people were recommending me for skills I don't have or don't want to emphasize. Has this been fixed? Well, the thing is, you can actually delete skills from your profile. So if you don't want to be known for it, you can remove those. I think it's good to have skills, though, in general, especially for the ones that you want to be known for. So, for example, I have skills related to my previous jobs around financial analysis that I don't want to be known for anymore. You can actually also change the order so that you can go, actually, we'll go back for a second and show you. So if you look at this skills visual, you always get 3 up top. So you can actually prioritize and edit by clicking on this little pencil icon that you want to change which 3 are featured up top. So I've moved certain ones up there knowing that more people are going to be looking at my profile talking about talent strategy and recruiting as opposed to CFA level 1 or portfolio management. So again, just figure out again what skills you want to be known for, and if you're not known for it, that's okay. You can put them on your profile, and then you can ask people within your network to say, hey, would you mind endorsing me for this? I don't think it's an unreasonable request, and it's not like you're gaming the system. You're trying to get people to legitimately recognize you for the skills you do have. Does LinkedIn take recommendations from industry sectors? I want to be listed in communications, but it doesn't exist. Not a recommendation per se. Obviously, when you set your industry, the algorithm tends to align you better to content or people who are in that industry. But I think you have to figure out what is your industry, right? Is it higher ed? Is it comm? Comm might be a function. Higher ed might be the industry. And again, you can play, with all these definitions everywhere, right? Like technically speaking, am I in human resources? No. Am I in a technology company? Yes. But again, all these statements can be slightly tweaked. Because yeah, I do work with HR people. I'm not in HR. I'm actually in a sales organization. Mm-hmm. Am I in a technology company? Yes. Am I in tech? Again, there's a few different nuances, especially with certain industries. But I'd say just give it your best shot and figure out where you want to be aligned. Great questions, though. Okay. So, if you want to start publishing an article, again, start right on your homepage. You don't have to put it right in the update field. You can literally just click on write an article, and then all of a sudden, you've got an article template right in front of you.
Hey, Aaron, we have a text question from Denora.
Okay. So Denora writes, I reach out to professionals for events I'm organizing for the Cal Career Center, and every once in a while get a message that I'm running low on numbers of people that I can reach out to. I think LinkedIn thinks I'm a recruiter. Suggestion? Interesting. So I'm not exactly sure what's driving that particular system response. It'd be nice if they were to pay for a premium membership because, if your role involves reaching out to professionals, it actually makes a ton of sense because you should be using this as a tool to spur engagement. Free nonprofit account, that's a good one. I think that's absolutely a great idea. Thank you for reminding me of that. I think that, if you want a premium membership for yourself, again, it certainly pays off in certain use cases. But definitely follow up with me after, and I can see if we can arrange some kind of nonprofit account for you.
Mm-hmm.
You are welcome. Okay, so as I mentioned, starting your homepage. Once you click into create an article, it's very straightforward. It's not, the fanciest of user interfaces, but you've got enough room for at the very top to modify your fonts, to set things in quotes, to add links. You have an image leader bar that you can set a picture up front, a headline, and then your content. And really, that's it. I think that's an easy way for you to share your thoughts. So if you have thoughts about, purchasing and procurement contracts, or you want to talk about new technologies impacting, solar, you can write whatever you want. You can publish it for anyone to see. If you have such an aspiration, you can even sponsor it and get it in front of other people. That is what some companies will do to say, hey, we have white paper. We want to share with, salespeople who are doing, inside sales and technology companies. Yes.
Hey, Aaron, I just listed a question. We have two ways to associate with UHS. Once you've added the UHS icon to your education profile, you're then associated with the public-facing group, as an alum of the school. But there's also a private LinkedIn group that people can join that then it's a closed environment where people can ask each other questions or get career advice or search for jobs in a private environment with a pretty awesome group of members. I just want to remind everyone about that.
And I think what we'll do is right before we open up the questions, I'll switch screens, bring up my profile, we'll show them the group, we'll show them the SFUHS page, and that way people can see sort of what that looks like.
Okay.
So again, starting your homepage, feel free to bring in content. I put in content. I try to do it maybe every couple of months. Sometimes there are lags. And then if you want to use LinkedIn as a publishing platform, you can certainly track it. How many views did you have? How many comments? How many likes? If you're using this as, again, a way to drive business or drive attention or credibility, you can certainly do all that. So think about what your goals are. And, if you want to be able to measure that, you can see who's looking at your article, what kind of backgrounds, geographic, job title, company do they have? Did they come through you through a Google search or through a LinkedIn link, or did someone share it on Facebook? So that attribution, I think, is going to be helpful for a lot of you. The publishing tips, I think, are relatively straightforward, right? Create a catchy headline, just like you would in newspapers or any kind of publication. Add a standout image. But most importantly, be authentic. No one likes to read something that clearly doesn't make sense for the author or their background or sounds like they just ripped it out of someone else's book. And part of this is thinking about who is your audience. Because if your audience, for example, is people who are in your network, are they going to be the ones who respond well to this? Are you trying to get outside your network? Are you trying to find people in different geographic areas, industries, companies? Again, just be very cognizant of who you're telling the story to before you tell the story. Now, thankfully, this section of the presentation is relatively short because you could literally show tons of individuals who have really interesting backgrounds. We've chosen to select two, for example, right? This person, Paul, is an executive chef at DoubleTree here in San Francisco. His background is about food preparation, right? And the way he makes it clear is that he shows people, a photo of some of his creations, and this is his background. By contrast, we have Oliver here, who is the CEO and founder of Partnership Possibilities for America. And his background, if you read through some of his articles, are around corporate governance and talking about, NASDAQ and talking about the various industries that he's working with. So, again, think about some of the different ways that you can become known for something. You don't have to be a celebrity to have a well-followed profile or something that's put together well. Okay, so hold on for 1 second. I'm just going to share a couple images with you guys. That way you guys can see what some of these elements look like. Okay, so first of all, this is the link that Mariana just sent out. So when you're part of the group, you can see we have 1,300 members. I can start a conversation. Hey, there's me. You can see other things that have been listed in the group. Maybe you've got questions for the broader community, like, hey, my kids are, just about to, to get into grade school. Does anyone have advice on, interviews at Town and Hamlet? Like, terrible example. But I mean, like, if there's questions that you have that this community will have perspectives or insights on, post your question. Engage people in the community. Duncan Lyon, holy cow, I haven't seen this thing in forever. See that random connection that you just don't think about. Old teachers, old administrators. If you look at your profile and you actually scroll down, like to mine, you'll see from the top of my profile down to my education, I'm wearing the same shirt in that profile photo. That's just terrible. So this is the San Francisco University High School group, and you can tell because it has the right icon. If I were to add a new education, just say University High School, you would not necessarily be connected to this community. And this community, if you click into it, you can actually see, the alumni, the followers. But, we'd love to say that we have more than 300 alums because we do have more than 300 alums. But when you actually are able to have an accurate representation of your fellow alumni, it makes it actually really easy for you to see where people are going and where they've been. And I'll give you an example. I graduated from Vanderbilt Business School 5 years ago. So when I look at Vanderbilt and I try to think about the alums and where they are, right? One of the things that I'm thinking about right now is moving to Chicago because my wife's family is from Wisconsin. So if we move to Chicago, I'm curious, how many alums am I actually going to know in the area? How many alums would I want to get to know in the area? Are there any of my fellow alumni board members who are already there? Well, why don't I just inquire by clicking on the alumni button and say, where are they? Where do they live? So I can scroll down here and I can say, I'm going to, my mouse is a little slow today. Oh, Lord. So close. So I might type in Chicago here, and it gives you the greater metropolitan area. I click down. Of the 9,300 alums, there are 266 in Chicago. And I'm curious, once this reloads, it'll show, the specifics around what they do, where they work, and who they specifically are. So I might say, okay. Brittany's a current candidate. This guy's a treasury analyst. This person's an economist at the SEC. Okay, so again, this is the power of the network once the information is up to date. So I highly encourage each of you to update your profiles and make sure that everyone in your network does the same. So I think that's all I've got in terms of formal content. I guess I'll open it up to any questions. If you guys have questions now, and I'll look at the chat, and then if you guys want, I can unmute all the lines too. Are you okay with that, Mariana?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, so I've unmuted everybody. So if you have a burning question that you really want to just step up and ask, I'm happy to answer whatever I can.
Hi, I'd be curious how you decide which LinkedIn requests to accept. Do you accept everyone you get, people that you have met, people that you feel comfortable reaching out to? How do you decide that?
So I'll give you sort of like the general statement, and then I'll give you what I do. So the general statement is accept whomever you feel comfortable being connected to. And the reason why I say that is because some people like to connect with everybody because they're a recruiter or they're business development and they want a bigger network. I know some people who do that. Some people might shut down all people except for the ones they've met in person. I don't subscribe to either of those philosophies because I think it's a little short-sighted. Generally, I only accept people with whom I have a very strong connection, which is typically through UHS, through my college, or through my business school, or someone I've worked with or know personally, or at least met in person. So if I meet someone at an event and I want to stay connected with them because I think they're interesting or they have a cool background, I will accept their connection request or I will connect with them. Some people will add me and just be complete strangers and not give any request context. And I usually decline those because the instance you accept someone, let's say you accept my connection and you don't know me. And then 6 months later, one of your friends says, hey, I still connected to Aaron. Can you introduce me? Well, you're going to be pretty embarrassed to say, oh, I don't really know him. So why would you accept my connection request? That's my personal philosophy. I connect with people who I know because I want to be able to refer or to connect or to engage with people and know this person in some capacity, right? But again, that's my preference. So I think figure out what you're comfortable with. Do you want a network of really strong connections? Do you want to maybe add some weak connections? Do you want to add some strangers to broaden your network? It's all up to you.
And then, so the follow-up question is what do you sort of do if you feel like you have connections that are kind of working your connections that are not necessarily, I mean, they've got a company, that's fine, but, you know, it's not like you stand behind it, right? I mean, like a college classmate. So
Right.
a social friend, but not someone that you necessarily want talking to, you know, all your business school best contacts, right? On your using your name.
Yeah. So I think, again, this comes back to what your comfort level is. And I'm getting the sense that it might not be comfortable for you. Totally fine, right? So you can do one of two things, right? You can either tell them to stop or you can cut them off from your network. I highly advise not doing the latter because, you know, if you just cut someone off because they're doing something you don't like, you don't give them a reason why, it doesn't really help anybody. They might just be very upset about why they didn't get a connection request. So usually I set my expectation with my network contacts and my friends. If you want an introduction, give me a good reason for it, and if it makes sense, I'll do it. If it's just, you know, I want to know their company better, like, okay, why? Because I'm interested in it. Give me something compelling. I'm looking to make a change to an industry. Your person has a very similar background to mine and made the switch. I think it'd be great to talk to them. Absolutely. No doubt. So, you know, again, just, you know, figure out what your comfort level is and figure out, again, do you want people to have access to your network? Because in a sense, that's what you're inviting. If you accept someone into your network, you get their network, they get your network, assuming they actually have a strong relationship with you.
Thanks. I don't think it happens often, but I've run into it on occasion. You're like, whoa.
Yeah, it's happened to me on a couple occasions too. So that's why I tell people, think about if you accept someone, what could people ask you for from them? What could they ask you for? You know, I mean, if your best friend asks you for a recommendation, you're probably going to give it because you built up that connectivity, right? They earned that right to ask you for something and you trust them, so you'll do it. But someone who's got a weak connection to you, who always is taking and never is giving, probably better just to be like, hey, you know, I don't appreciate you just commit my contacts. I know people don't like conflict. I'm an exception to that rule, so I will tell people that very directly, like, hey, I feel like you're using me. Their response usually has been, I'm not. Like, I don't care what your intention was. I feel like I'm being used. Tell me why you're asking for this. And usually they stop asking.
Aaron, I have a question. Not asking you to reveal trade secrets, but what's on the roadmap ahead for LinkedIn? Like, what can we expect in the coming months that will, you know, be great new functionality?
So there's a lot of functionality, and I'm not 100% up to date on all the new changes coming. However, there are a few that sound really good that are going to be customer facing, or member facing, I should say, that I think will be interesting. There's a resume assistant being integrated with Microsoft Word. And that's going to be a really powerful thing because it will live connect your resume to LinkedIn, even if you don't have an account, to say, hey, it looks like you're trying to write a resume for a marketing optimization role. You know, do you want to see other resumes that look just like that? So it's making, again, those connection points. So if someone's trying to figure out how to change their job, what kind of things should you be highlighting? What kind of gaps should we be addressing? There are a lot of features within the tool itself that I think will be helpful. I think some are already online. So for example, if you indicated your geographic location and you're looking at a job, some of the new job profiles will show what the estimated commute time from your zip code to the location of that office.
Oh my gosh.
So for someone who's on mobile looking at a job and say, oh my God, that's a 50-minute commute, forget that. Wait, that's 10 minutes? Where is this job? It's in Hayes Valley? Fantastic. So little things like that are on a roadmap that are going to be really impactful. When you think bigger picture, beyond just the member experience, one of the biggest things that we're unveiling as a company this year is a product called Talent Insights, which allows corporate HR and recruiting teams, as well as broader business leaders, to figure out where are people within the network? Where are there skill abundances or shortages? Where do you tend to get people coming into your company, heading out of your company to? What are your competitors doing? So it's going to give people a really strong ability to compete by actually knowing, like, hey, we lost 40 people this year on a staff of 400. And of those 40, 30 went to our primary competitor. Why? It won't answer every question, but it'll surface a lot of really important questions. And all of our corporate recruiter, like head of talent acquisition, head of HR clients are drooling at this product because the competitive landscape really doesn't have anything like this, certainly not up to date and in real time. So when this comes out, ideally, I think in Q2 or Q3, it will probably change the market on corporate recruiting and just broader talent flow visibility. One question we got to the chat is from Denora. Would you recommend including in your summary something like, please let me know why you want to connect? I don't want to, give you like, it depends kind of answer, but it does depend, right? You can certainly include that, knowing that some people will be turned off by that and not want to connect with you. It might also filter people from just broadly spamming you. But the one thing I found is that people who just add you without knowing you don't really read your profile. So if you put a thing like that in there saying, please include a request of how we know each other, I can guarantee you're still going to get those kinds of requests. It won't deter some people because they're more likely not to see it because they're just scanning. So you can't do that. I took mine off because I felt like I was rubbing some people the wrong way. It's just, my personal preference because I'm just going to deny you if I don't know you. Sorry.
Okay.
But that goes the other way too. So if you're adding someone you don't know very well, say, hey, Nora, I don't know you, but we both went to UHS. I'm a few years behind you, but love your experience. Would love to pick your brain over a coffee if you're down for it. So definitely consider how you invite as well as how you receive. Is there a way to message someone without connecting? Yes. So that's what in-mails are for. In-mails allow you to message someone in the network without being in your network. I don't think you get any in-mails as a free user, or maybe 5. It's a very small number. So if you have the occasional one, I think you're fine. But if you have plan on contacting people outside your network, then in-mails obviously become a justification for why you want a premium account. But yes, you can message people that way.
I get that with the nonprofit account. So Denora, I think we'll hook you up after. Okay. Any final questions before we log off? Oh, Andrea has a question. Go for it.
Well,
yeah.
I've been hesitant to ask anything as I thought my particular situation kind of seems not so businessy and not so tech world, but and I will admit that I have not I have a LinkedIn profile, but I have not been using it. So, but I'm really, really interested in making use of it. I'm an artist and I do corporate art lessons. It'd be great to be able to sell my art to corporations that need pretty things on their walls. But again, and I need a whole private mentoring session. But anyway, it was like, could this work for an artist too?
So glad you asked this question. Absolutely. I don't think it's exclusive for anyone in the business world. People who use the platform are academics. They're students. They are nonprofit administrators. They are certainly business professionals too, right? People in technology. But again, it's just a way for you to stay informed and stay connected. So, for example, let's say you are someone has put out an RFP for a new art installation at, new Salesforce tower. Well, maybe someone in your network works at Salesforce. Maybe they work on part of the facilities team. Again, you don't know that until you've drawn that connection. And this is why the power of the network can't be really seen until you've gotten some momentum. If you only have one connection on LinkedIn, that really doesn't help you, right? Because you're only accessing part of their network, and maybe there's no one in common there. But let's say you add 5 of your best friends from high school. Let's say you add your 5 best friends from college and your 5 best friends from grad school. All right? Immediately, that's 15 people plus their networks. You probably know someone within each of those 5 people's networks. So add that person, and then figure out, well, who else do you know? If part of this is done for a business reason, again, it makes sense. But even just in staying in contact and seeing what people are up to, there's a completely natural use case for that. So my advice is build out your profile, and I'll send out this deck afterwards so people can lean on the teachings. Develop your story, give people a summary, give people a photo, give people your experience, and then try reaching out to people saying, hey, I know it's been 20 years since I've seen you, but would love to reconnect. And as long as you do it in a natural, self-interested way, I've never had any issues with reaching out to my network. If you offer to bribe people with coffee and pastries, though, it works even better.
Thank you.
You betcha. A few more minutes left, and do I see another comment or question? Elaine says, thank you. You're welcome, Elaine. I'm glad that we were able to help you.
Where are you going to send out that information? Is it going to be on LinkedIn or sent through email and UHS?
Mariana, can I send it to you and then you send it to the group?
Yes, and I'm going to attempt to take the video file and post it on YouTube afterwards as well.
Cool. Well, if there aren't any more questions, I hope this has been valuable for everyone. If you have more questions, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. My name is Aaron Fung. See, plug. Seriously though, if you have any questions about your profile, about things you can do with LinkedIn, let me know. If you are thinking about using it with your company, happy to answer any questions you might have. Other than that, Happy New Year and thanks for your time.
On behalf of the University High School Alumni Association, thank you, Aaron, so much for doing this as a volunteer, taking your own time from your busy day. This is great. We had a lot of interest, and I'm really pleased. Thank you so much for your help.
Absolutely. Bye, guys.
Okay, bye.